السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الذي لا إله سواه، والحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه، حمدا يليق بجماله وجلاله وجزيل وكريم عطائه ونعمائه. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف أنبيائه سيدنا ومولانا محمد الصادق الأمين المبعوث رحمة للعالمين، وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم اجعلنا منهم. Okay, welcome back to our Tazkiyatul Nafs course, session number 3. Um, Today we will focus on a very important topic that is of concern to everybody, which is happiness. What is happiness in or from an Islamic lens, and how to pursue such happiness. The sources are, as usual, the Sahaba Seminary, in particular the Sahaba Essentials Year 1, and some aspects from um, later years. So we'll start today with a quiz. Don't mean to scare everybody, but I think I'm not going to put anybody on the spot or call names, but I think it's very important that after each session, we try to remember key takeaways. I try to summarize at the end of each session what are the unforgettable points, things that we should not forget. Even after an hour and a half of talking, if you walk away with something, usually there are like a handful of points that we try to remember, literally memorize them, because every session will build on the previous one. So as like if you are building a multi-story building, you cannot have floor number 2 without one, and you cannot have one without the foundation, and so on and so forth. So the question to you then, what do you remember from the previous sessions? Think, what are the high points or the main takeaways? We will review this together, but again, I'm putting you on the spot in front of yourself, mainly to kind of encourage you to develop that habit that every session before we go on, we need to remember what did we do before and what are the key takeaways from the previous sessions. So let's recap, especially if you're, let's say, your first time joining us. That would also serve as an introduction. What we emphasized repeatedly, and repetition here is not bad, it's actually very useful, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is near. And if I do not feel the nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the issue is at my end, that I am turning my back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what do? I need to realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is inviting us to what gives us life. I need to turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and take steps towards the shores of His nearness. Primarily for me, I am the beneficiary here, not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our worship does not increase Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way, but rather it is for us. And if we do not take that in and take positive steps towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we might mistakenly perceive the do's and don'ts of Islam as repetitive, laborious, futile, Sisyphean tasks, in the sense that, why do I pray Isha arba rak'at, 4 rak'ahs, while I just did pray Maghrib? What's the point of doing more and more and more and more? This actually, the point is that we stay near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gave us the methods and opened the door for us to connect with Him and stay under His shade in his nearness for our own benefit. So if I turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and try to fly towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how would that look like? What should I feel towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We agreed that we will fly to Allah like a bird, a balanced bird that has a head of love. That's the main emotion, that I feel love towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and gratitude for everything that He gives me and for everything that He is. So with that love, I also have two wings. One wing is reverence and fear, because we're talking about His, like the King of Kings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. So we should have someone in us that reverence towards Him and fear of disappointing Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the other wing is hope, because no matter how hard we work, we will not be worthy of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us and what He keeps for us in the hereafter. So we hope for His mercy, because we will not make it without His mercy subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how do I approach? We said that we need to perpetually engage in the Tazkiya cycle, which is like I need to learn more about Islam, learn more, enhance my spirituality and my spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when I learn more, that will trigger in me a burst of energy known as tawbah, that how come I didn't know this before? How come I didn't do better before? How come I'm not doing better in general? And this sense of tawbah and remorse and hot tears would make me, propel me to struggle against myself, against shaitan, against dunya, in order to continue the upward virtuous spiral towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then this cycle continues perpetually, in the sense that Tazkiya is not a course that I take done in the story, but rather is something that is a lifetime mission. So, and then we said the first step on that path is to summon in me sidq al-talab, or sincerity in seeking. Meaning what? Meaning close your door, sit on your prayer mat, and ask yourself, do I want this or not? Do I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not? Do I want to approach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or I'm fine with my dunya pursuit and I'm happy the way I am? So if the answer is hopefully yes, I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, keep that sense, sincerity in you and in me. This would be the energy that would propel us forward. And then the next step is to make sure that we are in good suhbah. We talked at length what is good companionship and what are the benefits of good suhbah. But just to keep it brief, it's like during COVID. You remember when during COVID we used to sanitize everything around us? Why did we do that? Because we were fearing to get infected. So exactly like this, we need to sanitize our environment, everything around us, because I don't want to get infected with sins. So this is why I need to maintain good suhbah. And then we moved on and we defined what we call the spiritual anatomy of the self. And we put together this figure that says that I am not just a body. I'm not just like after having muscles and six-pack and nice hair and whatnot, but rather I am a heart. I am a soul. I am a human because of my soul. So the soul kind of calls upon my heart, pulls my heart in a positive, the upward direction, while the nafs, on the other hand, is what weighs me down. So the nafs, by the nafs, it means the low base self that is full of shahawat hedonistic desires and how intellectual justifications for my hedonistic desires. And this nafs pulls me down or pulls my heart down. And depending on what dominates, positive or negative on the heart, then I would either have a qalb salim, i.e., a sound heart, or not. A sound heart is like a true mirror that sees realities as they are, while a distorted heart is like a distorted mirror that doesn't see right as right and doesn't see wrong as wrong. So what defines the heart then goes to the intellect. So the intellect acts like the CEO of me. The heart is the board of directors. The heart sets the direction and then sends the plan, the corporate plan, to the intellect to execute. So if my heart is salim, is sound, then my mind, my intellect will come up with plans that achieve goodness. And the opposite is also true, that if I have a sick heart, then my intellect, even if it's the smartest ever intellect, highest IQ of the chart, I will be executing plans that are evil in their essence. And then I set the intellect sends those executive orders to the limbs to do whatever the outcome, what achieves the plan that the heart wants. So we concluded that we should be mindful of this spiritual anatomy. So lesson number 2, if you forget everything, just remember this chart here. Remember this spiritual anatomy that we keep in mind, that I must feed my ruh or my soul. I must tame my nafs. I must purify my heart and make sure it's clean. It's a true mirror that reflects realities as they are. And I must be the gatekeeper or bawab of my heart, making sure what is going in and stopping at the door what is not supposed to get into in my heart. And then I engage in tazkiya, and realizing that no matter how hard I work, it's Allah ultimately subhanahu wa ta'ala that opens the door for us. Therefore, we have to be in dua until we gradually build up or perfect our experiential tawheed. And we said experiential is kind of like you can describe honey any way you want intellectually, but until you put a spoon of honey on your tongue, then only then it becomes experiential. Same thing that with Iman, only when I taste it in my heart, when it infiltrates every aspect of me and all the recesses of my heart, then my tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes experiential, and that transforms my inner beauty, my inner character, my inner akhlaq, in a way that I would be worthy of being the Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth, and ultimately worthy of His pleasure and His Jannah and the companionship of the Prophet ﷺ in the Firdaus, inshallah. So this is where we're at in the course so far. And the next question is, what is holding us back? What is holding us back? Like I hope you agree on everything that we said, but are we doing what we're supposed to do? If not, what is holding us back? So this is what we're going to talk about today. So what we will learn together today, inshallah, is that number one, we are like endlessly busy in business and busyness, in the sense that I'm minding my own business, I'm tackling life, and that's keeping me forever busy. But the question is, to what end? Where is this busyness taking us? It's going to make me happy. Do you really want to be happy? Of course, all of us want to be happy. But if happiness is that important, then what is happiness? We don't pause and think and reflect what exactly is this happiness that everybody wants to pursue, and what is freedom? I want my freedom in order to pursue my happiness. What defines freedom? what are the types of happiness? What are the types of freedom? And what is the role of Tazkiya, which what we're studying here, and to unlock um, true freedom and noble happiness. So this is what we're going to discuss together today, inshallah. So let's start by the fact that we are all busy. I'm sure you all are. We are all busy bees running around, buzzing around. Sometimes we're flying very fast to the point that we bounce off walls and hit glass windows and get dizzy and fall on the ground and gather ourselves and fly again and so on. And to the point that like we feel that the pace of life is unsustainable. Every day I tell myself, you know what, this cannot continue on. Like if we keep like this, you wake up in the morning, run, 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 run until you collapse in bed at night. It's unsustainable. And to what end? What are we after? This is a very fundamental question. If you really want to be happy, then you need to ask yourself, what do you want? What do you want? Face yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what do you want? What are you after? It depends on the stage of your life. Like, are you after education? You want to graduate from high school, from university, get your PhD or whatnot? Then what? Get a job, have a career, receive awards, make money? Then what? What are you going to do with the money? Buy a house? Buy a car? Get married if you're not married? Have kids? Raise the kids? Struggle with the kids? Where is this leading to? You want to be famous? You want to be powerful? Bezos or Musk or whomever? Is it power that you're after? Fame and power? And then what? Like what after you do all the above? What's next? Gonna buy a boat? Buy an island? People don't buy houses anymore, they buy an island. Buy an island, buy a jet, have freedom to have breakfast in Toronto and dinner in Paris? Freedom to do what? And then when you ask these questions, you must also realize that people before us who achieved all of the above are not happy. How come they are not happy? Look at powerful, rich, famous people and tell me whether you see happiness in their eyes. If you're old enough to know who Elvis Presley is, the king, or Michael Jackson, the king of pop, the leader, Maradona, if you're a soccer fan, you definitely know who Maradona is. All of these guys, what's in common in them, all died of depression and drug overdose. What does that tell me? That tells me, and hopefully tells you, that it is not the achievements that are listed above that make us happy or make people happy. Then back to the question again, what are you after? Think of the above and tell me, what are you after? Better yet, remove after. What are you? What are you? What are you here for in this dunya? We talked previously, see the previous weeks, how I am a abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So all of this tells me that there has to be a shift in my view of life, a shift in the lens that I'm using to pursue my life to something else. Where is this going? To Islam? Fine. We know from Islam as a fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling us for what gives us life. But all of us are alhamdulillah Muslims. And then when I turn to Islam, quote unquote Islam superficially, I still feel empty. You pray. How do you feel when you pray? Nothing? Do you even remember what you recited when you finish the prayer? I feel nothing. And then I feel inundated with internal questions. My mind is like a machine gun. Why is this? Why is that? Why do I have to put on the hijab? Why do I have to pray? Why do I have to fast until 10 p.m. And while other people fast till 6 p.m.? Why this? Why that? Why? A ton of questions that actually reflects that inside of me, I have inner resistance. Inside of me, my superficial understanding of Islam, that it is a bunch of do's and don'ts, Sisyphean tasks that never end, void of meaning, and I don't know where I'm going with this. Do you experience that? If no, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, you're in a good place. Keep on whatever you're doing that is giving you the tranquility and the lovely taste of Iman. But if yes, if you experience of the above, that of the above, then I ask you, what is your understanding of Islam? What is my understanding of Islam? Is it superficial? Is it skin deep? Is it the outer dimensions of Islam only? I pray 4 rak'at, I'm done. I made wudu before I pray, I'm done. Is it that? Just like that superficial skin deep? Or does my Islam have a spirit, experiential, heartfelt? What are the inner dimensions of my Islam? What is my understanding of true happiness and true freedom from an Islamic lens? Because you don't take your car and drive on the road and you have no idea where you're going. You must have a destination. Even if you have no destination, you will make one. I'm going to the ice cream store to have ice cream or whatnot. So you cannot pursue life if you don't know what you're after. Which brings us to the point where we need to have a closer look at what is happiness. What is happiness? Have you ever met someone that wakes up in the morning and says, you know what? I don't want to be happy today. I had enough happiness in the past. Let me today, for a change, experience being miserable. Try it out. Nobody does that. Everybody wants to be happy. So what is happiness then? By the way, we're not the first one to ask these questions. Scholars ask these questions, and Imam al-Ghazali defined happiness in a succinct and nice way as follows. He says, السعادة هي حصول اللذة والنعيم باستيفاء كل غريزة ما يشتهيه مقتضى طبعها. Let's translate that. What does that mean? He says that happiness is the attainment of pleasure by what each faculty of me, of my nafs, in accordance to its nature, desires. For example, just to give you examples, what is the happiness of my stomach? My stomach wants a juicy burger, a nice steak. If I give my stomach a nice book to read, it will not be happy. That's not like it's inconsistent with the nature of my stomach. It needs delicious food. Similarly, what's the pleasure of my intellect? Not a burger, but it needs to be engaged with something fulfilling. So each faculty of me, inside me, wants its own pleasure depending on its nature. Similarly, my nafs overall wants something, wants pleasure, wants happiness that is consistent with the nature of my nafs. So yes, it's true that I want to be happy. I want to be free to pursue happiness. And happiness is the most common aim and objective of every human being on this planet. And then to the untrained eye and heart, underline heart, the untrained eye and heart, it may seem that what actually constitutes happiness is universal, is universally and unequivocally agreed upon. But when you pause and reflect a little bit, you very quickly realize that actually this is not the case. Different people have different definitions of happiness, have different pursuits of happiness, have different desires according to the nature of their nufus. And this defines what they do in life. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that happiness is relative to the nature of me, nature of my nafs. What defines happiness for me is different from what defines happiness for you, for somebody else. And then I want to be free to pursue this happiness. Like when I wake up in the morning, for instance, and I want to do something, I want to date, and somebody tells me, oh, dating is not allowed in Islam, or I want to drink a beer, and somebody tells me it's not allowed in Islam. It's like, who are you to tell me what to do or what not to do? This is my definition of happiness. And I want to be free, quote unquote, free to pursue this happiness. Don't control me. Therefore, that freedom in itself has no intrinsic value, no inherent value. If I put you on an island by yourself and you're free to do whatever you want, it has no meaning. But in society, in life, in our life, we want to pursue happiness in different ways. And my definition of freedom, therefore, based on that definition of happiness, is the lack or absence of constraints in my pursuit of the happiness that I desire. If you try to stop me from the happiness that I desire, then you are constraining my freedom. And you see this around you in society nowadays, like where freedom is paramount and the fulfillment of the nafs is very important. People are coming up with all kinds of unprecedented ideas that today I want to try being a woman, for instance, and nobody can question if this is a thing or not. I define morality, I define pleasure, I define freedom, and no one else is to question this. Is that consistent with Islam? That's the question. And we have to bear in mind that pleasure is different from happiness. Pleasure is often fleeting and short-lived in the sense that you eat something sweet, in 30 seconds it's gone. This is pleasure. You had some pleasure of something sweet on your tongue and it's gone. But happiness, to the contrary of that, is longer term, something more lasting. It's surprising, like in my field, for instance, in my technical field, I work with AI, artificial intelligence, and we train quote unquote smart agents. If, for instance, if I'm trying to train a robot how to navigate a maze, or trying to train a traffic light how it times itself in order to reduce delay for motorists or whatnot. When we try to train such as an intelligent agent to take actions on its environment, like navigating a maze or stop it, like deciding which direction of traffic gets green or red or whatnot, we tell the agent, don't be fooled by short-term reward, but rather focus on long-term cumulative reward. What does that mean? It means, like, imagine, for instance, you're playing a game of chess. When you're playing chess, it's often that you sacrifice a piece for a bigger game. So the agent that is acting, and we are agents acting on life, that agent is smart or intelligent if it is farsighted in the sense that it looks ahead to the future and tries to maximize cumulative reward over a long horizon. So therefore, also, when I pursue happiness, the point from this discussion, when I pursue happiness, I want to be planning long ahead. I'm not aiming at immediate pleasures. I'm aiming at Jannah. This is the longest horizon one can plan for. Most people, even the smart ones in dunya who are maximizing, for instance, their revenue from a business or whatnot, they are planning ahead, but not many people plan beyond life itself and into the hereafter, hoping for Jannah. So it is not immediate pleasure. That is the key point that I'm trying to make here. It's not immediate pleasure that we're after. Otherwise, reflect, like, why aren't we all shooting drugs somewhere in a beach somewhere right now? That would be the highest and most intense pleasure you'll ever have. But you will be dead in 6 months or in jail. So it's not smart to do that. We have to plan ahead in order to have long-term happiness. So where we're going with this is the fact that for me to pursue happiness, that happiness is relative to the nature of my nafs. Remember, we're in the course of Tazkiya nafs, so my aim here is to adjust my nafs. So how is happiness dependent on the type of nafs? The scholars say that the different types of nafs that we can have are four. And where I'm going with this will lead us to definition of happiness as well. So what are the different types of nufus that we can possibly have? The first one is the so-called bahimi nafs, nafs bahimiyya, or cattle-like or hedonistic nafs. The second type is predatory or sab'i or kalbi, like a kalb, like a dog, like a hyena, like a tiger or a lion. Nafs, it's like predacious in nature. And the third type of nafs is satanic or shaitani nafs. And the fourth type of nafs that I can possibly have is angelic or malaiki nafs. So these are the four types of nufus that we can possibly have. So let's elaborate on them one by one. Let's start with the bahimi, cattle-like hedonistic nafs. Like what? Like a cow. So what makes a cow happy? Like imagine a cow in the field grazing on a sunny day. What does it want? Well, happiness for that poor cow is very simple, very primitive, very hedonistic. It wants to eat, it wants to drink, it wants to sleep, maybe every now and then run a little bit in the open pasture. And then it wants to mate and copulate and make babies, have babies. That's all. Is that all? Yeah, that's all. Have you ever seen a cow reading a book? Have you ever seen a cow investing in the stock market? No, that's very, very, very simple life. If you give it what it needs based on its nature, it is happy. So now the question to us is, do we do the same? We actually live this way, believe it or not. We live this way. We raise our children this way. We develop society this way, all centered on consumption and consumer culture. Very primitive type of happiness. Like we work like a dog, party like an animal, sleep like a carcass. That's what we do. While Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us very differently. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وحملناهم في البر والبحر ورزقناهم من الطيبات وفضلناهم على كثير مما خلقنا تفضيلا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says we have loftily honored the son of Adam or the offsprings of Adam. We're much better than cows. We're much better than basic animals and favor them over a multitude of what we have created, that is the rest of creation. So we are different. We are a rank higher, a rank higher than the rest of creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, وَلَقَدْ ذَرَأْنَا لِجَهَنَّمَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ لَهُمْ قلوب, hearts, لا يفقهون بها. That we certainly created for hell many of the jinn and mankind. They have hearts with which they comprehend nothing. Remember last time we talked about the primacy of the heart, how important the heart is? Eyes with which they see nothing and ears with which they hear nothing. Those, what is the state of those, Ya Rab? Those are like cattle, كالأنعام, like cattle. Rather, they are even worse. بل هم أضل. At least the cow knows what it wants. بل هم أضل, because we are giving faculties to be better, yet we settle for the base type of happiness, hedonistic, consumption-based happiness. إن الله يدخل الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار والذين كفروا يتمتعون ويأكلون كما تأكل الأنعام. That the disbelievers or the people who do not do righteous deeds, they are like enjoying, like satisfied with hedonistic pleasures, exactly the same way that cattle enjoys life. Here is a hadith that I personally find scary, that the Prophet ﷺ says, إن الله يبغض كل جعذري جواظ سخاب بالأسواق جيفة بالليل حمار بالنهار عالم بأمر الدنيا جاهل بأمر الآخرة. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love whom? Does not love the arrogant, the foodie, the loud in the market. You walk in the market, mashallah, you know everything. You know how to buy, how to sell, how to fix things. Anybody asks you about a matter of this dunya, you have the answer right away. And then we work during the day like what? Like a donkey. And at night, we're not even sleeping like a donkey, we sleep like a carcass. That person is consumed by dunya affairs and ignorant of the affairs of the hereafter. Run, 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 run on the hamster wheel of life. So all of this is hopefully an explanation of this basic low base nafs that is hedonistic in nature. Then you say, okay, of course we're not that. We are smarter than this. Like we can think, we can plan, we can grow businesses, we can evolve, we can do this and so on, which brings us to the next one, which is type of nafs, which is the predatory or predacious nafs. The predacious nafs, like take a hyena, for example. The predacious nafs has the same quality like cattle in the sense that it wants to eat, it wants to copulate, and so on. But over and above that, it wants to dominate. I want my business to kill the competition. Even in playing, even when we play with each other, like ping pong or tennis or pickleball or whatever, We want to kind of like dominate the other. And some of us, إلا من رحم ربي, like do this with anger. Like predatory animals usurp, like steal the property of others. They want to control. I want to be the king of the jungle. I'm willing to be violent. I will eat your kids in my pursuit of that. And then, like, they are merciless in nature. And incredibly, what do you think a hyena does when it goes home at night to its cubs? It feeds the cubs and plays with the cubs and so on. So, like, very conflicting type of nature. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the Prophet ﷺ says, يخرج في آخر الزمان رجال يختلون الدنيا بالدين يلبسون للناس جلود الضأن من اللين ألسنتهم أحلى من السكر وقلوبهم قلوب الذئاب. That at the end of time there will be will appear in the latter days people who buy this dunya with their deen. They will sell their deen to buy dunya. They wear skin as soft as sheep. They come out and say, you know what, I care for you, I love you, I'm doing this for you. Yet their hearts are like the hearts of wolves and the hearts of hyenas. So this is the second type of nafs, which is predatory in nature. The third type of nafs is satanic in nature. So what distinguishes the satanic nafs? The satanic nafs finds pleasure in, first and foremost, arrogance. Look at me, I know, I am better than you, I'm better than them all. This is the defining characteristic or khuluq of shaitan, arrogance. This is why he was kicked out of paradise, because of his arrogance. And on top of that, in order to fulfill and feed that arrogance, it deceives. Like this type of nafs is characterized by deception, delusion, thinking that I am what I'm not, simply vanity, wanting leadership, wanting Nobel Prize, wink, wink, abasing others, depriving others their rights, cheating, lying, sowing seeds of animosity. So not only I want to eat your kids, but I want you and him and her to kill each other. So I would be the ultimate winner. I don't do much. I just let you kill each other and I'm the ultimate winner. And of course, shirk, associating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so on and so forth. So this is a type of nafs. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ. That when we commanded the angels to prostrate to Adam because of the majestic nature of his creation by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they all bowed down except one, except Satan or Iblis. He utterly refused and acted arrogantly. I am better than him. You created me of fire and created him of clay. First of all, it's that twisted logic. Who says that fire is better than clay, for example? But even the sense of kibr, the sense of arrogance, the sense that I am better, I don't bow down to this creature, is what ultimately rendered Iblis as a kafir and got himself out of paradise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Fatir says, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ إِنَّ وَعْدَ اللَّهِ حَقٌّ فَلَا تَغُرَّنَّكُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا وَلَا يَغُرَّنَّكُمْ بِاللَّهِ الْغَرُورُ. That the promise of Allah is true. Allah promises us the truth only if we have hearts that see the truth as truth, only if we have true mirrors inside of our chest. So do not let the life of this world delude you. Don't be consumed like a cow, like a cattle in this world. And do not be deceived about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the ultimate deceiver. Al-Gharur is Satan or Iblis. إن الشيطان لكم عدو فاتخذوه عدوا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning us, couldn't be clearer, that Satan is an avowed enemy to us, so we have to take him as enemy. And similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says in Surah Al-An'am, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَا لِكُلِّ نَبِيٍّ عَدُوًّا شَيَاطِينَ الْإِنسِ وَالْجِنِّ يُوحِي بَعْضُهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ زُخْرُفَ الْقَوْلِ. That for we have raised up against every prophet who has the truth an enemy, that devils from jinn as well as from mankind. So mankind are capable of being devils, covertly inspiring one another with decorative words of delusion. Promises. You'll be happy. You just need this, you need that. Who needs Allah? We cannot look at us. We have AI now. We can create. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala challenges them and saying that He cannot even create a fly. And even if you create if a fly takes a bite of your food, you'll not be able to take it back, let alone create a fly. So the Prophet also ﷺ says that يكون بعدي أئمة لا يهتدون ولا يستنون بسنتي وسيقوم فيهم رجال قلوبهم قلوب الشياطين في جثمان إنس. That there will come people after me who will not be led by my sunnah, by my guidance, and he will not adopt my sunnah or my way. There will be among them men who will have the hearts of devils in bodies of human beings. So this is systemic nafs. The fourth type of nafs is the malaiki, the angelic nafs. So what characterizes this type of nafs being angelic? The angelic nafs is pure, like pure water, has natural pure state. It's in loving surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They find pleasure in knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in drawing near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to His commands and abstinence from His prohibitions. Angels, by design, they see realities as they truly are. They know the truth and are always in dhikr, occupied with being with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. That's what makes an angel an angel. But they are programmed like that. That's their created nature. We are different. We have the ability to choose right if we wish or wrong if we wish. That's why it's said that humans who choose the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are better than the common angels, because we are not created of nur. We are not, we have to strive despite our clay-based nature, to behave in an angelic way. And this takes effort, that takes will, irada, takes mujahada, struggle against the self. So when we achieve what the angels achieve, the common angels achieve, then we are in a better rank than the common angels. That with the exception of the special angels, like for instance, Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam. But the scholars also say that the Anbiya and the messengers are even better than the special angels. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the angels in Surah Al-Tahrim, لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. obedience. They do not disobey Allah in what He commands them, and they do instantly as they are told. So, to kind of put the pieces together now, we have four types of nufus: bahimi or cattle-like, sab'i or predatory type of nafs, satanic or shaitani, angelic or malaiki. And here is the rub, here is the fundamental question. Which of the four am I? Again, reflect, sit down by yourself and ask yourself, here is the nature of each one of these, here is the nature of each of these nufus. Which one am I? You'd be surprised. Like some of us, some of us, maybe one of these nufus, like dominant, like one type of one of the four types of nufus is dominant and apparent, but likely will be a combination of them all. Each one of us has a bit of this and a bit of that. We have moments we are just like, happy and relaxed with a good meal. There's another moment that we want to usurp and take from others. There's another time where some people don't mind, for instance, sowing a seed of animosity, like you give somebody at work, for instance, you say a bad word about the person to get fired or whatnot. And some of us are working hard to be angels, alhamdulillah. So if we want to know the type of nafs that we have, then I observe what gives me pleasure. What do we pursue in this life the most? Where do we, you and I, spend our time? How do you spend your day? Reflect at the end of the day before you go to bed. Say, where did my day go? Is it after, making money and paying the bills? Was I hurting somebody? Or was I serving others like an angel? And you can even assign percentages. Like you can say, okay, 90% I'm a cow. And then maybe 2% I'm an angel, 1%, I hope 0% satanic, and some of, the predatory nature. I was discussing this with a student of mine once and explaining to him, the different types of nufus and so on. After I finished, he says, you know what? I was so happy with the cow model. It's just like, I wanted to stop at the cow model. This is what I want to do. Really? Really? This is what we get from this discussion? Like you want to settle for the cow model? Hopefully not. Like we want to be angelic and we want to improve our character, like sculpt my character as we said at the beginning, that as if I have a chisel of Islam in my hand, and I have a piece of rock or marble, and I'm gonna trying to kind of create my character out of it. This is what we should do. And then what if I don't try that? Like the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet ﷺ in Surah Al-Qasas, فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَكَ فَاعْلَمْ. If they do not respond to you, O Muhammad, i.e. they don't follow you, then know what? That they follow their hawa, ideological inclinations. Why would I have ideological inclinations? Because I have hedonistic inclinations. I have shahawat. So when I have shahawat and somebody tells me, oh, that's not allowed to do this or it's haram to do that, and I say, why not? What about this and what about that? And what, like, people look at this society, people date and they're fine. They drink at, Friday night, they drink just to kind of let some steam out and let the stress go and so on. and they're fine. Then the ideology starts kicking in, which is more dangerous than the shahawat, by the way, because like when I fall for a shahwa, I know, like Adam alayhi salam fell for eating from the tree, and he realized right away that I've made a mistake. I'm sorry. I repent. Astaghfirullah. But when ideology kicks in, like I am better than him. Why Allah, you order me to prostrate this creature? Then you start justifying. So it's much more dangerous or much harder to resist hawa than to resist shahwa. وَمَنْ أَضَلُّ مِمَّنِ اتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ بِغَيْرِ هُدًى. And who could be more lost, who could be more astray than those who follow their ideological whims without any guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then, so what does all of this have to do with tazkiyah then? We are in a course about tazkiyat al-nafs. What about the cow and the hyena and this and that, and what's the connection here? Well, the connection is that tazkiyah is the key to unlock the the true noble freedom and happiness. How? How? Because Tazkiyat nafs, if you kind of like try to sum it all together, is about promoting the traits of malaiki nafs in me. I know that I am all of the above. I know that I have the four types of nufus inside of me, some more than others. So it's my job then through Tazkiyah to increase, promote the malaiki component of my nafs, and then suppress or restrict the traits of shaitani and predatory aspects of my nafs, and taming the drives of the bahimi aspects of my nafs. Yes, I want to eat, but moderate. Yes, I want to eat, but alhamdulillah, thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so on and so forth. So this is the struggle. This is the mujahada that is like we are we should focus on, or ought to put effort in. And it's just a side note. You know what? What do we do in Ramadan? Think about it. When Ramadan comes, what do we do other than the above? If my Ramadan is superficial in the sense that I don't drink, I don't eat, I have suhoor, this and that, is that all there is? These are the outer dimensions of Ramadan, the superficial dimensions of Ramadan. But the inner dimensions of Ramadan, the essence, the ruh of Ramadan, is to do exactly the above, that I control, I tame my nafs. I try to act like increase my acts of worship and become closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like an angel. I stay away from sins, anything that would make me satanic or predacious. I try to stay away from that. That's the essence of Ramadan. That's the essence of Islam. That I try to move in a direction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this gives us life. And so what is the best way then to achieve the above? Follow Islam. As simple as that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like the Shara, the Islamic law is designed exactly for this, to promote, to help us in the best way possible. Like, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ask us to pray 5 times a day? To keep us connected. Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us fast in Ramadan? To tame our nufus, to angelize, like make ourselves like angels, and so on. So this is, Shara is all about the above. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He made us. He has the manual. Like when you buy a car, if you buy a car, for instance, if you don't follow the user manual, if you don't do the maintenance on time, you void the warranty. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us and gave us the manual. Here is the manual, follow the manual. You don't follow the manual, you void the warranty. So it's either that we follow, quote unquote, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلِ الْأَعْلَى, the recommendations of the manufacturer, follow his way, subhanahu wa ta'ala, or follow my way. I'll do it my own way, follow my how, and good luck with that. So, so the same way happiness is relative to what? What is happiness relative to? Relative to the type of nafs that I have. Then freedom is also relative. Try to remember this. Freedom, what kind of freedom do I want? Is it freedom for my nafs to sin and to indulge in hedonistic pleasures? Or is it freedom from my nafs? Very big difference. There is freedom for my nafs. You don't tell me what to do. I know what I want to do. I know what I want. I know my pleasures, and I'm going to pursue them. This is freedom for my nafs. Don't give me constraints. I'm in free society. I define everything I am and everything I want. That's enslavement to the nafs versus freedom from the nafs, from the shackles of the nafs. Ubudiyya to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, slavehood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is it ubudiyya to Allah, or is it ubudiyya for my nafs and my shahawat and my hawa and shaitan? So which freedom is it? Like a hot air balloon, if you've seen hot air balloon fly before, the first thing is they drop the sandbags. We are anchored down to the ground by the sandbags of life. فَأَخْلَدَ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls us to fly, and no, I'm digging my heels in the ground. So I want to shed those sandbags to fly. I want to shed dunya, hedonistic dunya, predatory dunya, satanic dunya, and I want to fly like an angel to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the takeaways then, to summarize all of this, remember we said that each session there are takeaways. So what are the key high points from the session today that are unforgettable? I should not forget. I should keep in mind and in heart at all times. Which type of nafs am I? You have 4 choices. Define which one you are. Define if you are all of them, likely we all are, then what are the proportions? What kind of happiness I am pursuing? What do I spend my day on? That will tell you, right? That will be very telling how much time we invest in feeding each quadrant of the 4 quadrants of my nafs. Which freedom do I want? I want freedom to pursue my hedonistic pleasures. I want freedom to litigate for my nafs, or freedom from the shackles of my nafs. What kind of abd am I? Abdullah or Abd al-Nafs? This is a serious question. Am I Abdullah or Abd al-Nafs? Unfortunately, more often than not, I realize that I am Abd al-Nafs. And worse than that is Abd al-Shaitan. So I must strive and work hard to be an angel. I have to be in the process of tazkiyah all the time. I have to be happy in Allah, by Allah, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have to sculpt my heart, my character with the chisel of Islam. And we still have many sessions to come. So we're not done yet. We're just setting the stage here. So we'll go in detail what needs to be done in order to move towards the shores of nearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how to improve our character and akhlaq, and how to make our tawheed, inshallah, experiential. So with these takeaways, reflect before you go to bed, sit with yourselves. Ask yourself, has my view of happiness and freedom changed at all? What makes me happy? What makes me tick? Reflect on the four types of nufus, and define for yourself which one you are, to what proportion, and which one do you want to be, and how to get there. And then, how does happiness, freedom, and the nafs relate to tazkiyah? What is tazkiyah? Tazkiyah is moving, taking steps towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, taking steps to become angelic in nature. What do I need to do? This is what we will be discussing all along, but we have already discussed a lot. It's starting from sidq niyya to suhbah, to being mindful of the spiritual anatomy of the nafs, that I have a heart, I have a ruh, I have a nafs, and the different types of nufus that influence that heart, and which type of happiness I pursue, and so on and so forth, and to be continued, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.